Ladies and gentlemen, with over 100 hours in Khazan the First Berserker, I wanted to share my experience and why I think this is one of the best Souls-like games ever made. I currently finished the game and I'm working through New Game Plus, and to be honest, I'm usually the person that plays through a game once and never touches it again, with the last game sinking its teeth into me being Elden Ring. But this game just has that fun factor that keeps me wanting more. I'm not going to be showing any story spoilers, but we will be going into some advanced combat techniques. But with that being said, let's talk Khazan. And remember to hit that like button and subscribe to keep up to date on all the games you're not going to want to miss. So let's start off with the difficulty and what you can expect from Khazan. Because I've seen a lot of different opinions being thrown around, like it's one of the hardest Souls-likes ever made, even harder than Sekiro. And then you got people on the other side of the fence saying it's one of the easier Souls-likes. This topic I wanted to make as clear as possible just to get everybody on the same page and comfortable with the decision of potentially purchasing this game. And for me, this lands and goes hand in hand with Lies of P. In no way, shape, or form is this harder than Sekiro or Elden Ring. These games are extremely punishing, where Khazan is way more forgiving in its deaths, progression, and even checkpoints. For example, there's always checkpoints right before a main boss. It's really not that difficult to go retrieve your souls or lacrima when you die. And when you're versing a boss, they even leave your souls outside that boss arena. And you continuously progress your character's strength every single attempt that you take. Now, no, I'm aware this doesn't measure the full difficulty of the game by any means. But what I'm saying is even the base structure of how this game is designed is way more player-friendly than what we would expect from any other typical Souls-like. Here's some more comparisons to throw your way. I would definitely say it's harder than Black Myth Wukong. It's right on par with the Notria, the last song, even though I think the difficulty in that game came more from its jank. And I would say it's harder than Lords of the Fallen, but it's most similar in difficulty and in polish to Lies of P. And I wanted to point out this is my experience as someone whose first playthrough was with the Greatsword, which I hear is arguably one of the harder weapons to work with. And no, I'm not flexing or nothing, I'm just saying this is what I hear. But no, the game's not a breeze, it's not easy peasy, but it's definitely not as hard as what people are making it out to be. So if you're reading all the interwebs and you're kind of getting scared off because of that, I just want you to know it's not that scale of difficulty, and it may not be the case. The level design, it's broken up into missions, with the majority of these missions and enemies being relatively the easier part of the game to work through. The real difficulty is in these bosses. And you guys know I love these games, but every time I encountered a new boss, I knew I had some learning to do. I expected to spend a few hours on them, but despite the challenges that these main bosses threw at us, there's a lot more to this game that just isn't straight up brutal punishment. All in all, I think they found a perfect spot to place this game's difficulty. Now let's talk about combat, and in my personal experience, everything you do in this game is extremely satisfying. Now I'm going to be bringing up Lies of P and Sekiro a lot in this video, because I feel like they just took the best parts of both of those games and smashed them together to create this. So just like in Lies of P, your parry is going to be your main focus, your more reliable and rewarding defensive ability. This allows us to break the enemy's posture bar for big damage. It opens up different combos for you to counter-strike with when you brink guard. There's counterattacks, reflections. There's so much this game provides you with to be as defensive as you want to be, and it rewards you well when you do so. Then you have your dodges and brink dodges, with Khazan having great mobility just as Sekiro did, but without the crazy jumping. All of these put together is unbelievably satisfying, especially when it comes to these boss fights, where they really put all these different systems to the test, making you learn their rotations to perfect parry what's coming at you. Then they start throwing in grab abilities that you can't parry, and you're going to have to stay on your toes to look out to time that perfect dodge. And if that's not enough, then they even have what looks like a Makiri counter, again from Sekiro, that makes you hone in your skill even further. And honestly, my weakest point in this game was the counterattacks that you see on your screen pop up. And I gotta say, I owe this game a lot, and I'm proud to say it made me get good at the things I wasn't as tight on or skillful in. When in the beginning of the game, I was taking hit after hit of these counterattacks, but by mid-game, I was just waiting, hoping for these counterattack signs to pop on my screen, because I knew I was going to hit them perfectly every single time. It was an amazing sequence of natural progression on my end, and I know it's going to help me in a lot of future games to come. So with all this fun we're already having on the defensive side of things, now we can actually throw in our combat, different abilities, and combos in the mix. This game presents you with a lot of different options. Everything from how you open up on the enemy to different combos that you end up throwing together, depending on if you need more AoE or not. want. You can look down at your spirit bar, and maybe you can throw in some special spirit spender abilities to chain into another potent blow, then back into a special ability to break his stamina bar. Then you could squeeze out as much damage as possible before you go into that execution, which is going to reset your entire stamina bar so you're able to just go for a whole nother new rotation. The combat flexibility is just wild and is something that keeps the game fresh, honestly for me, forever. Especially once you get into like the main meat or mid areas of the game. This is where you start to really unlock a lot of the major parts of your skill tree and abilities, and I feel like that's what makes it shine. You never have the feeling of, oh, I need to wait my turn on this enemy, like I do some damage, okay, you do some damage. It's more the case of, okay, I need to be aware of my options and what I need to play defensively, but at the same time, if I'm utilizing the right moves at the right times, you could also just go pure unga bunga, and because you're staying aware, simply weaving in a counterattack here and there to stop certain moves from enemies really pays off. I mean, you even have skills in the tree that give you increased damage if you take a hit while charging your attacks. So there's really a lot going on with the combat system here, and it rewards the player for really digging into your abilities and finding those little synergies and what works well with what. Finding those combos of what you like to use or what works well chained together is so much fun, and I spent a lot of time in the training grounds to figure out certain combos that I like. And yes, there is a training room. How nice is that? Without a doubt, it's one of the most satisfying combat experience I've had in a very long time. And by the way, I stream every Tuesday, Thursday, and over the weekend, so feel free to stop by. And we have the entire playthrough on the channel, so if you're looking for something to watch or somebody to keep you company while you're going through your playthrough, I am here for that. Let's talk world design. This game has a hub-based mission design, so we go on our missions from a hub. We can replay these missions at any time. You can restart these missions any part of the way through, so if you just wanted to farm a boss for his armor set because it fits your playstyle, that option is available to you. You're not going to have to replay the entire mission to get to that boss if you don't want to, which is freaking amazing. There's going to be various NPCs in the hub. For example, we have Defrona, who allows you to walk into the training ground. You have a blacksmith to create armor sets and to craft specific reagents or weapon buffs. My favorite thing is you have an NPC that allows you to change specific stats, so just like in Diablo 4, where you can re-roll the stats that you may not fit your build. So if you get this ring that you absolutely love, but one of the 3 stats is like a little off, say you don't want stamina recovery, you want more damage, you can go ahead and fish for that stat, and it's so much fun. In New Game Plus, there's a transmog system available, so we can look as fresh as we'd like. There's a lot they packed into this hub alone. This game, guys, I'm telling you, they're providing me with like everything I want from a Souls-like in a very nice, polished package. You also got these phantoms. They're just passive effects. It's not like they're gonna come out and assist you. But look, I chose to go with Wolfric because I use a greatsword and we always want more damage. So we get an extra 15% damage bonus from the front, with even more additional potent effects when you fully awaken these phantoms. There's just so freaking much. But let's change things up a bit and talk environments and biome diversity. Overall, I do like the variety in the environments that they offered. I have to say I was a way bigger fan of like the open outdoorsy areas that were more in the beginning half of the game. As you progress, they start putting you in towns and what feels like little dungeons, and it gets kind of claustrophobic, I guess. I just really enjoyed when I was back outside, and the biome diversity, I felt like they changed that up plenty, which I just absolutely need in these games. We had snowy tundras, we had these fall foresty settings, rocky volcanic areas. We went down into spider-infested dens. Very well done when it comes to biome diversity and the frequency that it changed as you go throughout all these missions. Touching on the graphics a bit, I think this is going to be the deciding factor for a lot of people, which is good and bad because in my opinion, if you ask me, you need to experience this game. But for me, I'm not the biggest anime fan, but the whole shell shading art style that comes with that anime look is still very nice. I think in my eyes, I'm more happy because I finally get to play a game that's in this art style because it's finally in a game I like to play. I'm just not a big fan of Dragon Ball Z. I don't mess around with hack and slash games where I feel like this type of anime style really lives in. But it was a great change up for me in this art direction, but I realized it's not going to be for everyone. In terms of audio, the overall audio for this game was amazing. Like the boss fights didn't have that, you know, over-the-top Latin choir type orchestra popping off all the time, but one of the last bosses had one of my favorite tracks in the whole game. 10 points for the person who guesses what boss I'm referring to. But the voice acting was phenomenal with both Khazan and Blade Phantom. Khazan, of course, is Ben Starr, the same voice actor who did Clive in Final Fantasy 16, and Blade Phantom is actually the guy who played Margit in Elden Ring, and both did fantastic jobs on that front. And the sounds coming from combat, this is something that really drives it in the right direction for me. I can't get enough of the parry sound. The counterattacks when you pop off on those sound so crispy. You could just hear how absolutely juicy the combat is, especially for someone who's using the greatsword. It sounds hefty, and that's what I want. But from the combat, the boss design, level design, all of it is an absolute treat and is something that's worth your time and money. Leave any questions or comments down below, and if you're looking for something else to do, feel free to check out some of these playthroughs coming up on your screen next. Toodles!